Hello and welcome to Inspiring Sports. My name is Alexander Tofilidis and I'm here with a very special guest all the way from Madrid, Teresa Diaz.
Hi, how are you?
Hi,
Alex?
how are you doing? I hope I got the pronunciation okay.
Well, no, it was fine, don't worry.
Teresa Diaz.
Perfect.
Perfect. And we're here in Frascati. We've just finished a tough session. How are you feeling? You feeling good?
Good, I'm a little bit tired because
Yeah.
of all the week, all the tension that is coming with the competition. Like, it's hard, but I'm feeling fine.
That's great.
happy.
That's great. And so it's great to have fencer here from Spain. So we want to hear it's a different country. We had Carlos before, and now we'd like to hear your story as well. So how did you get into fencing?
So basically, it's a family thing because my mom was the weird one that started fencing. Then my dad met my mom and he started fencing also. And then I had no choice. Nah, kidding. Like they trained in Belgium where I first lived. They trained there. They took me to the fencing hall. When they came back to Madrid, they started running the fencing club for which I compete. So since I was 3 years old, I was hearing like all the foil sounds, and when I arrived to 5 years old, that I could start, I told my mom like, hey, I want to try hitting with sports also.
That's amazing. So fencing is a family affair.
Yeah, sure.
That's great. And so you said you lived in Belgium, but you started fencing when you went back to Madrid.
No, I lived in Belgium, but for 1 year.
Okay, for 1 year. And so you started fencing in your parents'
My parents' club, yeah.
And were your parents your first coach?
Yeah, my mom was my first coach. Like, she was the one who taught me how to start. Then I changed coach with another one from my club. Then he left. I came back to my mom, and then I came to the national team.
National team. And so what was that like? What's that like? Because it's obviously great to have your parents and your family supporting you. And what was it like them being your coach also?
Well, like, the only problem is that, this kind of feeling that you have to have with your coach, that you have to understand fencing more or less the same thing. Like, the only problem was that, because for that, my mom is a very good coach. She never treated me different. She is very passionate. She thinks about what she has to do. She's always looking forward to improve. But we just fight a lot. We fight a lot, and we said, okay, we have to change this. But that's the only reason why we changed, because it was like it's an interesting experience.
Yeah, but it's still great to have that now you've come to train in Frascati, and that you have that support of your parents behind you. They're supporting you with all you're doing. So that must be great to have.
It's great because actually my parents were the ones that first supported me to go. At first I didn't want to leave home because it was like, it's always hard.
Yeah.
But then they told me like, hey, I think you should do this. I fully support you. And if you want to do fencing, I think you should do this.
Yeah.
And they always encourage me to reach everything I have, and I feel understood at home.
Yeah. And so how long have you been training here in Frascati in Rome?
Not a lot. I've moved in October.
October, okay. And before that you were training in Madrid?
Yeah.
Okay, and very nice. And how is the transition to living in a new country and training here? How are you finding it?
Actually, when I arrived, my coach, he told me, okay, from now, I arrived in October, okay? He told me, from now it's going to be the worst months of your life. 4 worst months of your life. You're not gonna eat, you're gonna cry a lot. That happened. But then maybe you'll feel good. I'm arriving to the part where you feel good, but I'm very grateful because it's such a different world. Like right now, for me, I always say it, if you want to do fencing, this is the place to be right now, because all the system is different. There's so many people to fence, and that's what I was missing in Madrid. There's not so many people, not that culture of the sport.
Yeah, I think that's an amazing thing about it. Everyone's so competitive, and
it's another feeling when you're training.
And everyone wants to push themselves every day, so you feel that you're really getting better because you
feel motivated by the people that surround you, and that's impressive. Like, I come here, I really like to think that everyone has something that can inspire you. because everyone here, I think that they have a certain quality that makes them special and that makes them fence the way they do. And I really like to see that in every person that I see, and I get really inspired when I get into the fencing hall.
I think that's really great, and that's a really good point. I think that not everyone's the same. Everyone has different qualities, and you can always learn something from someone.
That's the beautiful thing about fencing, that there is no one that fences the same, and the matches are never the same because everyone has like this thing that makes them different.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And how is the style is a bit, what's the difference in style from Spanish style of fencing to Italian style of fencing? I mean, is there been a difference in that kind of?
Like, I think that in Spain we don't have like that characteristic style. In my case, I arrived here, I started my first lesson, and the coach said, hit. I hit, and he said, this is wrong. I was like, okay, we're starting back. But for example, I'm used to fencing a very much longer distance. When I came here, I really shortened it. That's the first thing. Then here they have for me, they have a culture of feeling fencing that maybe you don't use it in Spain because like the school is totally different.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting, and I guess you've been here now for over nearly 6 months now. So, which moves on to the next question. So you obviously, the lockdown was and this whole coronavirus situation was difficult for all the fencers. So how were you able to deal with the situation? Were you able to still train? Because if I remember correctly, you were also in Los Angeles for this competition.
Yeah.
Which was cancelled the day before.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And that would have been the end of the Olympic qualification either way. So talk a bit about that. What was your feelings and how the training's gone?
Like when we arrived there, like it really surprised me. Like the day before, it was cancelled and we had to go back home to do the lockdown. Like directly the next day, we took literally the last flight that went to Spain. If we didn't take that flight, we couldn't fly back to Spain. So we arrived, and I was lucky that the physical coach had already set everything. So I did so much strength training. I did a lot of psychology work that I'm grateful that I could do that, because maybe you don't have all that time to be by yourself and to think about it and to work on yourself psychologically. I'm grateful that I could do that, but it was everything strength. Like I did some lessons with my mom at home, but
yeah, so lucky that you have your mother, the coach at home.
It was like it was more for having fun, to remember a bit and to work something. But for me, it has been a time for this psychological preparation. Sorry, I get like tumbled.
Yeah.
Rather than fencing.
Yeah.
So we were 4 months like that, like all working strength and stuff, and then they opened the training hall, but we could only go fencing 1 hour.
1 hour.
So it was like, whatever.
But I think that's really interesting that you have from so far, you have a really amazing growth mindset. So I think that was amazing that you were able to, during that lockdown period, improve other parts of your such as psychological and physical that maybe you might not have had the time previously to, which is it's great you used that period for a positive way.
Yeah, because what I've learned from this lockdown is that you have to do what you can do with the things that you have at the moment. If you're all the time thinking about what you don't have, you go crazy.
Yeah.
Like you have to do, okay, this is the situation, what can I do? I can't fence, okay, I can do another thing. Because if not, you are just thinking about what you can't do.
Mm-hmm. No, that's very, very wise words. And so moving on, I want to ask you, so far in your career, what would you say is a kind of best result you've had, and how has that affected you in a positive way?
Like, it depends, because it depends if you tell me my individual achievement or my achievement in general. In general, I'm really proud of my team, in particular, because The first time we did an European Championship, senior European Championship together, we made it to the top 8. It was the first time that since I think the '92 that there wasn't a women's foil team, and we won our first match. We did the top 8. I was so proud. Then obviously what I feel it's my greatest achievement is when I came 15th at World Championship. I won world #1 when it was totally unexpected for me.
Teresa Diaz, yeah.
But I'm really proud because I focused on trying to be me who ran the match instead of her, and I felt very confident. And that's when I really felt that if I felt confidence in what I'm doing, I can achieve things. I can be competitive, even if I'm competing with someone that I'm not supposed to win in that moment, because she has more experience, more results than me. But then instead of thinking exactly no, okay, she's stronger than me, I'm scared, I thought about, okay, I can do this, and that's when I felt encouraged. Also, seeing all the support of the team that I had, when I went out of the piste, I was crying a lot, I was so overwhelmed by emotions. I saw all the team, all the people that supported me, and for me, my community means a lot. Mm-hmm. And feeling that support made me feel even more, I can't find the words, but more motivated to do the thing.
Yeah. Well, I think that's really interesting. The first thing you said, when I asked you what your best achievement is, the first thing you said was about the team. I think that's really interesting, and it shows your kind of mentality, because I think that's definitely one thing that fencing does give you, is to work as a team and teamwork, and that's a great skill. And also from an individual perspective, because it's also about the team behind you. Yeah, to make that result.
So for me, community, and the people that support you, and that you surround yourself with people who wants the best for you as well as you want the best for them. It's super important because, for example, my team. For me, it's not only the team who I fence. It's also my coach, my psychologist, my parents, my friends. Yeah. It's all the ambient that surrounds you, push you up.
Yeah, I think that's really important, especially for people aspiring to get to the top. It's not just about what you do, it's about creating that right team around you to enable you to get those results, because you can't do it by yourself. No, because there's so many things that we have to deal with.
Believe me, I've tried, and you can't do that.
No, so that's really good. And also, I really liked your comments about this match, and that you won in the Budapest World Championships with Teresa Diaz. I think that you looked at what not to be overawed by, this is such a top fencer, but what can I do? How can I use your strengths against that? Was really good. And it seems like it really was a moment which made you realise you can compete with the best. And I think your results after that have shown that, your consistency. And so for you, do you feel that moment was kind of okay, I can beat the top people in the world, and I want to maybe get to that level on a more consistent basis?
It made me feel more ambitious, because it was just a moment where I decided to start only fencing, dedicate myself only to fencing. And just after I made that decision, I made 2 top 16s, Europeans and World Championships. And that's when I really got ambitious, when I said, okay, I really want to do this, but if I want to do this, I want to improve myself at the moment that I can be on the top. And that's what I'm trying, and that's why I came here.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And so my other question is, I can see you do a lot of psychological work, and fencing has taught you a lot of things. Now, how has fencing helped you outside of the fencing piece, in your life, or with your studies or your friendships and stuff? How has it been?
I think
helpful?
Fencing, apart from giving you the community that you have, for example, the majority of my best friends are out of fencing, they come from fencing. But then I think it gives you the discipline to fight, to say, okay, I want this, what can I do to achieve this? it for me it has learned it has taught me like to have confidence in what I'm doing. It has taught me like I don't do it a lot because I'm a very impatient person, but that you have to be patient to create the things that you want to create.
Maybe it's made you more patient.
It's kind of difficult. I'm not a very patient person.
No, that's interesting. And so also you mentioned about community and that fencing has. Now, you're now in Italy, you've traveled the world for many competitions. How has traveling the world for fencing and stuff and shaped kind of who you are? How has it influenced you?
Well, it taught me to, I don't know if this word exists in English, but to make everything more relative. Because, for example, when I don't know who I was talking to this the other day, when you go to another place, you can feel that like people there are weird, and then you understand that maybe for them you are weird because your culture is different. So it really helped me to understand that people can think other ways. Like it opened my mind to understand how people think, even if it's not how I think.
Mm-hmm. I think that's great. Yeah, and I think that's what fencing does, you know, because you compete against people from all different countries and around the world, and you see, you're right,
different styles of fencing that they aren't gonna react as you do. Like you have, like for competition, you have to understand that the other one is not thinking the same as you. And you have to understand how he is thinking for making them arrive to your game.
Yeah.
And I think related to the other question, what fencing has showed you in life, I think that's the principal thing that it has taught me, to understand how other people think.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting. Because fencing, you know, you have to really, it's psychological, it's physical chess, working out how they,
totally.
what are they doing and tactics. No, that's really good. So you talked a bit about your parents being key, and you mentioned in your development as a fencer. Was there other people that kind of helped you when you were younger, or helped you to get where you are today?
Yeah, of course. Like it first are my parents, of course, that they are the ones that introduced me to fencing. Then it was like the girls of my club and the reference that I've had. For example, my teammate Maria Marino, she is older than me, and I've always seen her fence, and she inspired me a lot. The older girls in my club, they inspired me a lot. The guys that are now in the national team, I grew together with them, and they have taught me a lot as well. Like I think all the people that surround me are really part of what I am right now and the decisions I've made.
Yeah, I think it's very important that even though it's individual sport, those teammates, you need them, not just for sparring, but just for general support, to be there in good times and bad times.
Of course.
Teresa, you seem like you're very psychologically switched on, so I want to ask you, and you do work with a psychologist, before competitions, do you have any kind of routines, whether they be physical or mental, that you kind of go through? How do you get yourself in the zone?
Sure. Well, first of all, I dance. Like I like to listen to this this Latin music, like dembow, reggaeton, because it makes me untense the situation. So I just listen to it. I get into the repetitive
some
thing.
Daddy Yankee.
Daddy Yankee is good. I recommend you El Alfa.
Alpha, okay.
You should get it.
I look.
But I really like to do that. Then I do meditation first. Like the week before, I do a lot of meditation, visualization. I like to connect with my emotions to know how I'm really feeling, so I can work it out, because I don't like to feel like I can arrive to a competition and I don't really know how I'm feeling, because if not, I can't work it out.
Yeah.
So I basically like face my emotions, manage them, and then I attend the situation.
And sorry, you mentioned one very interesting thing there, visualization. That's really, and so meditation, that's really, a lot of people are doing that in general in their lives, and that's really good. But visualization is interesting. I'm interested to know what kind of things are you doing for visualization?
So basically it's a kind of meditation.
Yeah.
But I work a lot with first thinking about what you want to achieve without judgment, without like thinking, no, this is good, this is bad. No, just visualization what you want. And then like, you know that when you are visualizing something, you are actually activating the parts of your brain that are included in this when you do it in real life. So maybe if you aren't sure about the situation, you're thinking how you can solve it, just visualizing how to solve that situation can help you a bit to feel how to do it.
Yeah. So when you come to the competition,
it doesn't feel unfamiliar for you.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So you can practice your moves without doing the physical.
On the lockdown, I actually did a lot.
No, I think that's really interesting because it's interesting because when people talk about effort they put in, you know, you can give 100% physical effort, as in you can train as hard as you want, but it's also what you do outside the piece.
Of course.
You know, for me, giving 100% effort isn't just you know, that fencing. It's about psychology is important, the physical is important. So I think you really have really found the really right solution there. Is that it's about what can you do outside the piece, because it's also very mental as well.
I call it the checklist. Like when you go to a competition, you have a checklist of the things that you did to arrive good to the competition. Like I ate good, I slept good, I trained hard, I did this, I like my rituals. Like you just do the checklist.
Well, I think that's really interesting for people at home to listen to, especially young fencers, to understand that it's not just coming to the fencing piece and fencing, it's about doing other things. And I think sometimes people might not know that. They have to do other work. A little bit more. Yeah, like you do lots of gym work, you said as well. You do a lot of physical preparation. Yeah. Yeah, it's important. The other question I wanted to ask you is, so it's really good now that obviously Spanish fencing, there's lots of women. Your team is getting stronger, as you mentioned, the top 8. And I think it's really a great way for, and you're lucky that in Europe, for example, that many women are fencing. And how would you see, from a global perspective, how important is it to get more women involved in the sport, and how can we go about doing that?
I think like the major problem that women have to get into a sports career is that we don't really have reference. Like I in particular was lucky that I saw Maria, I saw Anna, I was Italian, I was mixing Italian, sorry. Yeah. Like another girl that fenced for my club, that she was strong in Spain, but for example Maria didn't have anyone. So we are lucky that she decided to do that. But the problem for me is that there's not that much reference that you see yourself reflected on that.
Like a role model.
I think that showing women that they can do sports and that they can bet on a sports career, it's very, very important. It's the first thing. Then you have to give a structure, you have to give a planning, you have to give the material to do it. But the first thing that you have to give people to get involved in something is to show that they can go into that opportunity. Yeah.
Well, I think that's very important. I think the fact that you are being so successful, and I hope you'll be even more successful in the future, it means that you can be a role model for those future. Like
for example, I take care of my social media, for example, because of that, because it's a place exactly where everyone is on Instagram right now, for example. So if you use it to show sports, you're showing sports to everyone. Like everyone can go and just see that there is people that are doing it.
And I think what's really great about sport like fencing, is that men and women can fence together. And who knows? I hope one day they should do a male and female competition together, because that I think a lot of you ladies will beat us. Will be in trouble.
First, when I was in Spain, I always trained with the guys. Yeah. And when we do the fencing camps of the Spanish team, we fence together. Yeah. And I'm used to fence them. Yeah. And it's funny because you have to change like all the strategy, obviously, because you have to play with another skills that maybe you don't use normally. So you have to be intelligent.
But also, I think that's the beautiful thing is it's not just okay physical who can outbeat the other one. It's also mental. So it's a great sport where we can actually have those sparring between.
Yeah, I like fencing. I like fencing guys sometimes.
Yeah.
Like it's just different, it's fun.
We must fence soon. We must make a deal.
I think it would be an interesting match.
And then my question is now, so you're coming here, you're training hard, you're looking forward to the next competitions. What are your aims for your career? What are your dreams for fencing and also like for the next years and also for your career after fencing?
So basically right now at fencing, where I'm decided to get the best that I can get. Like when you go to a fencing competition, you see the finals and you see all the ambient and stuff. Like I want to be fencing there.
Yeah.
Like I want to get to a point where I am able to be the most competitive me. Like obviously, if we talk about exact achievements, I would really want to be able to fight for medal in Olympics. But I really want to get to a place when I develop my fencing for that level. And after all, I've studied for being a teacher, and I've saw that what I really like is to help people to encourage people to be the best they can be. So I really would like to mix those two things, like sports and teaching and growing up people.
Well, definitely. I think from what I've had today, you'll be a very good teacher. And lots of the future fencers in Spain and non-fencers will benefit from your knowledge. So that's really good.
Maybe I would really like to run a club or to get into sports, at some point.
Because I think that's interesting because I think you've spent all those years fencing and learning different things. Positive and negative, and so I think it's great that you want to kind of pass that knowledge to the next generation. It's a great thing to do.
I think it's important. I don't remember where I read this in a book that I'm reading right now, I think, that said, okay, when you leave a place, you should leave it so the persons that come behind you that are going to use it can benefit of it. So that's kind of what I want to do.
That's really great. So if I was to say 3 things that you've learned from fencing, what would you say?
I've learned that you should always use the skills you have to make a solution. It's not only one solution, it's what you do with what you've got. I've learned that community takes you so many places. Mm-hmm. And the third, I have to think about it.
And so really my final question is, if you're still very young, you're 23 years old, but if you could tell, Teresa Diaz of 10 years old, if you could go back in time and give her some advice, what advice would you give her? Not necessarily do differently, but what advice would you give her?
I would tell her to trust in the skills she has, because sometimes you get overwhelmed by what you hear of the rest, and instead of focus on working out on yourself, you work out for others, and that's what you should never do. I
think that's amazing words to finish the interview on. Thank you very much, Teresa. That's been really great, and I hope that people at home can take a lot of things from this interview. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.